Hey everyone, welcome back to Slice and Dice podcast. I'm Jono.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Phil.
And how's everyone been doing since the last we spoke?
Very good, thank you.
Not so bad.
Good. Yeah, so I think we've got a rundown of what we would like to talk about, which is basically just how we've been getting on since the last podcast and what we've been playing, what we've been sort of jamming with our brews. And then obviously we've had huge amount of spoilers that have happened between last time and now, so we're going to have a quick sort of rundown of what we like from what we've seen so far, and then obviously another big one is talking about limit breaks and the LB decks and what cards could possibly come from be put into that. Obviously we've got a limited card pool at the moment, but we will have a great discussion about the mechanics of that and see how we go. So how things been so far since we've been messing around and having fun.
I feel like Locals has been tumbleweed. And yeah. I was saying this before we started the podcast. This is before you got here, Sam. I was like, you know what? Next year, or like at the end of this year, so Winter Cup happens and then we have Christmas, I'm not going to like dive straight back into Locals and be like, yeah, I've finished Winter Cup, I want to play more Final Fantasy, because we're probably going to have the same like drought. Yeah. And that's okay, because it's like what Yoshida-san says about Final Fantasy 14 is like, do take time away, like you're allowed to not play. Yeah. And I felt like the last sort of like month I've been like wanting to play, but actually nobody else is, which is fine.
I think the FFTCG is really seasonal, isn't it? Like, with the interest.
But I think, because obviously the thing with the whole Opus 21 situation coming just before Worlds, and the top tier players are obviously having a great time showcasing it. It's left everyone going, well, that's that, I suppose. And so we've just all been having sort of like a mellow time about it. And obviously winter months are never fun anyway, are they? You always want to get a blanket wrapped around you rather than and leaving the house.
Yeah, I was enjoying testing the rest of the decks I wanted to play this set, but yeah, it's been pretty damn quiet at Locals, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've had a good few opportunities though, Sam, to like test your deck that you've been running for a while.
Yes.
Do you don't want to give away? Do you not want to give away the
source? No. I don't think it's a secret source in it. I don't think it's powerful enough to keep it a secret. Yeah. I think. I love it though. Windfire, crystals, very very good. In like not weak, but doesn't beat soirees most of the time.
Is that should be like that's a bed? It's like, that's like the Final Fantasy litmus test. Is like, does it beat soirees? Then it's not a deck.
I still feel like you are.
That's my bogey deck, isn't it?
I feel like it's quite sad to say, like, after 11 sets on, that if it doesn't beat soirees, it's a bit like, oh well, that's gosh.
It. I mean, it's not the best bar now because it's not there in the meta, so I think the deck is, I think it's quite good, but I don't think it's very unlikely it's going to be like a rogue powerful deck. But yes, I love the crystals, and the whole idea is throwing Windfires down in someone's face to like mess up their setup, and then when they're struggling to like stabilize, you get them with the cyan board wipe, because it's so cheap in that deck. Cheapest board wipe available when you've already developed 3 crystals.
I think you were discussing that last time, to be fair, because I think we had a good discussion about that cyan.
I don't know how much I said about it, but I think we underrated it a lot when we did spoiler season.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Legend Review.
I think a lot of people did, and I saw the cyan in a deck I was looking at yesterday, the Cat 6 deck that came top 8 at Winter Cup, which I completely missed. I think you mentioned it, and I just completely missed that deck, and there's a lot of crystal generation in that. It's purely a fire ice list.
Yeah. And
it's upset many games.
Yeah. I think we saw how strong he was in Wall 7 decks as well, if you're thinking more meta. Mm-hmm. But yes, I really love that Firewind deck. Nice tempo deck. It's got no EXs, and it's
How do you feel about that? Like, I always feel
it's a bit of a disadvantage, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel very worried. Like, it's when someone goes, "Oh, I'm going to hit you for damage," I know that there's nothing's going to get me out of a situation of taking damage. So I'm just like, well, I'll see what happens. And they go, "You might get an X burst." I'm like, I'm not. There's no chance.
And you kind of get to what, like, I don't know, maybe damage 4. And if you've not seen an X burst on like damage 4-ish, you're kind of like, I don't think there are any. I'm going to keep pushing. Yeah, like, kind of thing. I get to a certain point where I'm like, you know what? I don't care about X bursts at this point.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You don't get.
But other decks I've been playing. We tried out the Vikings with the new Faris.
Yes.
It seems good. It's really one-dimensional. Absolutely funny destroying mono ice with it. But yeah, it has some weird matchups.
Need to see that. I haven't seen it.
Again, that's not going to be meta. And I rebuilt my FF8 into Fire Lightning. Only Ant was there at locals, and it just lost everything. It was devastating.
Really?
Very upsetting.
Talking about FF8, I'll come in when we start talking about spoilers. But my, I'm excited to play some FF8 cards this set coming up because
these upgrades better be juicy. Is all I'm saying.
Beautiful in some ways.
Autocorrect. Did you mean looking forward to playing Edia?
Yeah, I love to play Adia, Ultimisia, all the ones with the big knockers, and we're all good. But in terms of this, I haven't actually played much at all since our our Wednesday locals are every month that we hold at Dice Cup. I haven't played since then, really. Well, I have and haven't. So, I played what came fourth in Winter Cup, where top four was Jenny's Warrior of Light / Warriors deck, and I don't think I piloted it as well as she obviously did, so I was a bit like, no, I'll keep it just in case. So I've not really played it, but it was when Lyndon was playing his Warriors of Light with the crystals. I was like, that looks more like my sort of deck, because I've been pushing for Warriors of Light for, I think there's quite a lot of people who love Warriors of Light out there as an archetype, and it's a very strong deck. But, just he sees things that I definitely have not. And I probably haven't played it since, I don't know, Opus 17, 18, So it's been a few sets since I've actually played it. So I've trialed it like a couple of times. Just had a quick game before stream, didn't we? Before putting this on.
Bart's is a menace.
Bart's, yeah.
That deck's so disgusting and scary.
It's something that actually looks more my style, and I'll probably definitely play that even into Opus 22 as well, despite the fact that
you've got to know the deck when you play against that. You've got to make every decision correct.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, because then when you're dealing with what I had, like the full board, like you've got Wall, Refia, Bart's, and
Warrior of Light.
Warrior of Light. I was thinking of Faris as well, but like I had the decision of like being able to bottom deck something with Gao, and it's like actually that's a really tough decision because I want to bottom deck the Wall, but I can't because of my monster count. But if I bottom deck something else and let the Wall go to break zone, it's a really nice deck though, very complex.
The threat density there is unbelievable, and the rebuild power is crazy.
Ooh, I like that term, threat density. I feel like that should be another thing on your FF Dex breakdown things, like number of X bursts, water cards, threat density. And then there's like a league of like you can only play decks with like threat density 3. It's like an earthquake thing.
It's a really important way to think about a tempo deck, honestly.
No, you're right.
Tempo is one thing that's missing out. I think a lot of people have seen Tempo is a great deck. I love tempo decks, but at the same time, it's a style of play that's not really that powerful at the moment. You've got
I know what you mean. It's interesting because some might argue that 4-color Wall is the tempo deck in the current meta, even though you'd see that as a control deck because it's like build to these backups.
I guess the tempo is like hard dance level of tempo.
And then arguably Wall 7 is a tempo deck. It's just like
becomes an aggro when you've got so many.
It's basically an aggro deck with the like resilience of a tempo deck. Like it's stupidly good.
Yeah.
I think though, from what we've got so far, from like all the spoilers that keep coming through, everyone's going, is this going to challenge our current meta decks and stuff like that?
I think we're in for a big shake-up, aren't we? But before we move on, sorry.
Go for it.
Shout out to Lyndon. I don't know if those guys still play in up near Mansfield.
The Sanctuary.
Did they go to Sanctuary now?
They go to the Sanctuary to play
rather than retro play, because they had retro play for a while.
Yeah, that's changed to Trident.
Because we
got you.
Because Trident Games is also in the one in Bulwer, but Lyndon plays at Sanctuary.
Shout out to old Sanctuary building that was in a cold church. That's where we pretty much started.
We were there for quite a while, and that's where we met Lyndon and the lot.
Some unknown Midlands FFTCG groups for you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So shout out to them.
Yeah, Lyndon was helping me yesterday, so he's
a great player.
with deck building because I've been playing a lot of water because I've got written here, which I'm sure people will find funny. I've got Rydia guilt. I have to come. It's like, Father, I've had to forgive me for I have Rydia'd. But it's a bit like the whole threat density thing. There are people that are like, oh, if you play like. I've been listening to Steve D's video that came out recently about LB, and I've been looking at sort of like a couple of Discords, having a bit of a chat, watching videos, and I've started feeling the guilt of playing cards like Firewind, Zidane, and 4-drop Wall. Like, yes, that I can play them as just like as safe cards in a safe deck, like my 4-drop Rydia deck.
Yeah.
But I've just started having the guilt of like whenever I put down one of those cards, that Mike just goes, this deck's shit, man. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, Mike. But it has made me at least put Rydia down temporarily because I've been trying out like Una and the Wind Water stuff as well.
Keep it in the back
and I finally got to do Chaos Arc, which was brilliant. Like, I went up against Ant, and Ant was playing a 2-color deck, so I was like, shit, this is going to be expensive. And then he did Alizé Alphino search, and I was like, he's got 3 elements, let's go.
Yeah.
So I finally got to do it, you know. So I've been testing more tropes, which has been my thing all along of let's experience the tropes. And I think
it's good to broaden your game like
just
that.
before we get to spoiler season as well. So I sort of like feel like I've learned enough that maybe I will take more from this season than I did last season.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And you can get sweaty again when it's competitive's kicking in a bit harder, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I think that's an awesome thing for someone who's new-ish to the game, is just trialing everything out there, and like it's literally like putting your toe in the water for every sort of possible thing. It just gets you understanding what possible decks you come across as well.
There's so many play styles in this game.
Massively.
It's so fun.
It's great. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to your Rydia thing, like I got a hold of 3 Rydias maybe a few months before you started playing, and like I tried it out, and I could just never get it to work with my play style. She just died. I don't know if it's just incidental about what decks your opponents are playing, you know.
I always find it's a timing thing with Rydia. Like, you have to make her as big as possible, otherwise she gets outed before she's got enough counters to be played. So for those of you that don't know, it's what, Opus 15 Legend Rydia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she says that when she or a Category 4 forward enter the field, she gains 2 growth counters. And then once per turn for free, she can cast a summon from your hand equal to or less than the number of growth counters she has. So the idea is to stack as many growth counters on her as she can, so that you can just free cast stuff like LOL, free cast Amat, you know.
Yeah. I never played her with Amat, so maybe that's why she never lived, you know.
No, you're right. You can even like, cause in the build I'm doing, it's like 6-drop Alexander, 6-drop Leviathan, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I generally would play
Remora,
her.
do you mean? 6-drop Remora.
No, it plays a 6-drop Leviathan, the one I have. I think.
said
Or is it
Alexander,
4-drop?
so-
It's an Alexander. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Alexander's?
Alexander will be a 4-drop.
Alexander is a 4-drop, and then I think the Levy this one runs as a 6. I think.
Yeah. Water Levy is great.
But I generally always, and giving away my play, not that it matters, but I always play like Rydia only if I have early game, if I can see like the double Cecil coming up. So I'll be like, play Rydia 2 growth counters, play Earth Cecil 4 growth counters, and then I've already got the next Cecil, which is the 6 growth counters, and you're immediately like fully online with a busted Rydia.
That's what I took to one of the store championships with, was the Rydia, and I thought that having a 1-drop Rosa just helped with those counters as well, because you know the 1-drop Rosa that came out with those Cecils was just easy to just, you know, play a Rosa, and then you've got, and also you can draw off the fact that you're playing the Cecil onto the field to give another counter, and then you do feel like you're running away if you've got enough counters to free cast things that are gonna.
This discussion's making me want to build Rydia, because the other way to play her is to just rely on 2-cost summons.
Yes.
Chris Matiski was running something like that. In Australia, and I mean you play the Ramu 2-cost that gives haste to anything. So you can play some kind of weird deck where...
Yeah.
And he was playing Belias as well. So it's all about hasting things, which is...
I can think of some
I want to play that deck.
Free Kukulanes are horrible as well.
I can think of like some really nice like summon based cards like Lulu and Una that you could like hybrid that with. That'd be really be kind of gross.
Yeah.
Thank you, because that would be shout out to Sean, because Sean played that against me. I think in like my first month of the TCG, I was on Cat 13, and I pushed him to damage 6, and then he just smiled at me as he free casted Amat like twice that game. But instead of focusing on the past, let's look into spoilers, because that's exciting.
Absolutely.
Holy baloney.
So as we have sort of deemed. I think LB is obviously part of this spoiler season, and is sort of throwing everyone a bit crazy, to be fair, because I've counted 7 LB cards so far. Yeah, I've spotted 7 LB cards currently, but we'll talk about that mechanic and how we play those cards in a bit.
Should we just pluck out a card? Let's just pluck it out at random.
Find something that you think is juicy and talk about.
Oh, no, pressure's on. Go on. Who wants to
Montleonis.
Go on then.
LB already. Let's go.
Montleonis.
We don't have to.
No, go for it.
Montleonis.
If that stands out to you, mate, go for it.
Yeah. Montleonis, 8 CP fire forward. Limit break 3. When he enters the field, choose one cost 3 or less fire forward, one cost 5 or less fire forward in your break zone. If you control 5 or more fire backups, play them onto the field. They gain haste until the end of turn. Then put one backup you control into the break zone. So game finisher card right there.
Yeah,
so your opponent wipes you. They're lower on resources. You play this guy and then kill them.
Yeah,
with all that haste and such. Even if you don't kill them, you've probably got a 10k ping off an ace at least. Right.
Yeah, I think you've got to. You've got to have. You're playing mono fire, and I don't think I've seen mono fire do 5 backups consistent for. I know it can be done, and I know it's easy. It can be easily done, but they don't necessarily rely on the backups, do they, to make sure that they get those. I don't know. You played mono fire.
I think unless you're playing aggro mono fire, I think they typically rely on getting to 3 backups.
Yeah, it's about 3.
Then, so they can play pretty comfortably on that. But yeah, I can easily see them, going to 5 and using this guy
specifically for this. Yeah, for this. Getting 2 things onto the field. You've got a plethora of different things.
This doesn't even read bad as a non-LB card, but the fact it's an LB card makes it stronger.
It reads as Cat 6 Edgar on crack. I've just realised it's like the 5-drop Edgar where you add 2 things back to your hand, but instead you play them to field.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the fact you can cast it twice as well. I guess I'm still learning the balancing of these cards, but that's another kettle of fish entirely.
Yeah, I think if you've got specifically this card in there.
Yeah.
Once you've played, if you decide to go right, it's not time for him yet. We'll play a different LB. Then you've only got one chance to play him after that. So you've got to watch how you know.
The good thing about him is I'm looking at fire LB cards and I'm already the next one can be total trash, and I'm happy with the amount of power they've given mono fire there just with Zach and this guy.
Yeah.
Because you think, okay, I need 3. I need to take 4 limit break cards to play this guy. So that gives me. Is Zach LB1?
Yeah, Zach is LB1. Yeah,
so that gives me 2 Zach pings and this in a game.
Yeah,
2 Zach pings early game. This late game, that seems really balanced.
Very true.
Which makes me want to bring up the new Shantotto. Because that's you use that as your only LB card that game.
Yeah.
And then you're relying on the fact your mono earth in your late game's crazy anyway.
Yeah,
which I think is really interesting. I looked at this at first and I was like, is this okay? Is this balanced? But I guess they're taking their whole LB deck away to play that.
I think the fact that you are sat targeting monsters as well just makes it all the more appetizing to play, because the fact that
what's a mono earth monster mirror match going to look like? I don't want to play monsters because he's got Shantotto in his elbow.
That is a cringe.
He's paralysed.
But that's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying, is because obviously the monsters have had so little interaction in a lot of ways through the most recent sets.
Right.
You the build on mono earth monsters, playing Mike's deck, or seeing Mike's deck in play. You go, there's not much that you can do unless you are specifically targeting monsters with your cards. There's not much interaction with those. You can't get them off the board as easy as any other card. So to have something I mean, we thought, what was the card that we came last set that we play, the 8 cost X Death, was it? Neo-X Death.
Way worse than we all thought it would be.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that we saw was like, oh, it kills everything, it destroys everything, monsters included, and then we were like, nah, it's actually not as great as we think it is. No. Whereas this does the job and also removes them from the field,
and you're not putting any backups into the.
And she's always in your hand as well, so you can do her whenever you like.
Yeah. Exactly. So
but only once. So.
The fact that she's 9 cost is by the by, you know, like to do the effect is like is quite it's there, but
it's
at
like
the same time
like an 8 cost 7 cost because it's an LB card though, right?
Yeah, of course.
I am a little bit on the side of caution though with like her and Montleonis. They're both 9Ks, and I don't. It's like you've paid
9K is like the average size of a forward these days, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But the average size of removal isn't 9K, which is like I'd say we've got like board wipes and stuff that counteract that. But like I'm sitting there going, most of my like single target removal is going to struggle to out that on the back on the recurve on the rebound.
What kind of cards are you thinking of that are not hitting 9Ks?
Not like in a single strike, so like maybe, you know, like a Faris that's got 3 warriors a lot on the board or whatever. But I'm just thinking of little cards like Brynhilda or like 7K Ramus. They're not. I can't think of really. Amazing. Yeah. Like even
I do think those cards are losing.
They're losing
stock because of this.
Even like
but you've got the new run of summons are good for just one shotting.
Oh yeah, like the new like Ifrit, the new Ifrit that's two 5K pings and things like that. Yeah, I guess you're right. The older summons I'm thinking are also good, but new summons are
like the Odin that French plays a lot of, which gives something haste as well.
Yeah,
you know, the one that breaks however much.
True. Yeah, no, I'm glad to take that one. I want to throw a curveball because we've just looked at 2 massive powerhouse cards, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about worms. The 5-drop Earth Sandworm common. So I know we've just spoken about like what heroes
commons are speciality.
We've spoken about like a hero, legend, LB, whatever. And now we're on like a wormy commony boy. And I read this and I just thought this is brute. I quite liked it. So whilst they're in, during your turn, Sandworm also becomes a forward with 9,000 power. When Sandworm is put from the field to the break zone, choose 1 forward, break it. At damage 3, when Sandworm attacks, choose 1 forward, and it gains, if possible, this forward must block. Like, I don't know. I know it's 5-drop, but it's pretty nuts.
In a commons deck, maybe it'll make it in. I don't think he's nuts by any means, but he's like compared to like an Opus. I mean, we played a Opus 5 draft the other day.
Yeah.
This guy is insane back then.
You know, like when you get a Gigas put up against you in like Mono Earth. Like it feels like a Gigas to me.
Yeah, I think he's good in
and you also, because that's the thing that Gigas was missing for me when I like play against it in commons, or even generally, is when you can out the Gigas, and that's the only issue.
Yeah.
So, you know,
because I think with having the during your turn, it's protected. As a monster during your opponent's turn, so having it, having something, say something is 9K, like your Montleonis or whatever it was. I mean, I know Montleonis does its thing on entry. Most of these LB things do things on entry, but making your opponent trade with your sandworm, then killing something on exit as well.
Yeah.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah, he's like Braska's final Aeon
devoured
common version.
Yeah,
but I would say that one of the strengths of Gigas is that he can block. Yeah, and that's what the monster deck wants to do. So I don't see it in the. Okay. I don't know if the monster deck plays him or not.
Unless you play Gao, and then you've got you can make him a forward.
Ooh, could you? I guess you can protect him with Gao, but that doesn't. It's neither here nor there.
But hey, it's nice that we mentioned some broken stuff, and then I go and. It's nice to have some criticism of opinion, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my.
I think, as I said, I was very interested in all the FF8 cards that came out, and the one that actually surprised me when it came out was the Eden card. So
it's a crazy card.
It's a light card, 8-cost summon. That basically the cost to cast Eden is reduced by 1 for each category 8 cards you control.
No, that was wrong.
A category 8 characters you control. Choose up to 2 forwards. Deal them 30,000 damage among them as you like. This damage cannot be reduced, and that last part was the bit that I absolutely like. Anything that says cannot become zero, it's just immediately
like the new Bahamut from Opus 21.
Exactly. The fact that the damage cannot be reduced sort of just makes this a.
I don't know if this gets played though.
I don't know.
Like maybe you cut like Squall from FF8 decks now. If you get maybe the new Squall is going to be better. Do we have the new Squall?
We have the new Squall.
Yeah, new Ice Squall, but it's quite sticky. It's Ice Squall.
I think the fact that the cost is reduced for any category 8 characters you have, and that's characters, so it goes for backups as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And also monsters if you decide to play FF8 monsters. So it's the fact that it can kill 2 things for possibly
2 big things.
Yeah, for possibly 3 CP.
This is a light card we're talking about.
That's the bit.
Me coming in with the debate.
That's the bit that I think is.
It's borderline basically
just.
Down. It's borderline just saying break, but I guess for things like cards that get bigger, like what's the 1-drop Earth card in Monsters? Not Mirror. The one that gets bigger with every character you control. The little
1-drop Earth.
Leo, King Leo.
Yeah, like I guess cards like King Leo, which if you're not running break cards or whatever, yes, you can deal 30k to up to 2 forwards. So cards like King Leo are no longer like unattainable to like break with damage. But
I think you're not going to play 3 of this, right?
No,
you're just not worth the clog for something that's not going to be online until turn 4 or something.
It was never my intention to actually say, this is a 3 of in any deck. It was more the fact that it's another way to break some things that otherwise couldn't if you had the options to.
Most importantly with this card is you need to visualize the 10-minute cutscene it takes to summon this in Final Fantasy VIII when you play it. You like get it on your phone and make your opponent watch it.
Judge, can we get a time extension? I'm in cutscene.
Absolutely.
Like, my opponent needs to respect me and watch like a satellite, like the Earth slam into some monsters or whatever the hell goes on in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
God.
Yeah, I think it's a choice to maybe like have at least one of, maybe, I don't know, but it's just one of those things that I thought the fact that it can get over things that reduce them to 0.
This is the kind of card that feels good to look at. You're just like,
there's something
wow, power, and
it's a bit like an Neo Extra thing, isn't it? We're looking at like a big power card. Naturally, it might.
It has that. Yeah, I completely agree.
Absolutely. But in terms of other FF8 cards, you've got Squall, you've got Ultimecia, you've got Adia, you've got.
So you've got Squall can vomit out FF8 forwards cheaply.
Yeah.
Adia's like a cheap recursion, quite big. Is she?
Adia is basically you search for and then put 2.
And she's removal.
Yeah, you mill yourself to buff something. Oh no, to reduce the power. Yeah. And if you got 10,
you use this ability during your turn. So she's removal every turn if you have enough stuff in your break zone.
But that also goes hand in hand with the.
And she only costs 3, so she's like Palom-ish levels.
Yeah.
But with a bit of recursion and consistency. So Ultimecia.
But then with Ultimecia, she's firstly all cards in the break zone cannot be removed by summons or abilities. But the fact that when she enters the field, if there's 15 or more cards in the break zone, it's taking stock of your break zone and having an understanding of what you need for this card to be played, because it basically says you control a forward if you have 15 or more cards in them break zone,
and you just permanently take it.
So
it's nice.
When Ultimecia enters the field, choose one forward. If there are 15 or more cards in your break zone, you control it,
and they can kill her, and you've still got it.
Exactly.
That's really good.
And so
it does cost 5, so that's the big thing.
Yeah, you're right. It does cost 5, but if we're talking about the amount of.
You just take their best forward. The fact that you can choose is gross. Imagine like you're against a 4-color wall deck. You just take it there like feeling so comfortable, and then you just take it off them.
Exactly. But as I say, you've got Griever who can search you out, play this.
Yeah.
And if you're playing the other Ultimecia that came out last set, you've got 10k spams for Maelstrom.
I'm glad we're getting this Ultimecia and this Adia that costs 5, because I tried Griever in Ice Lightning FF8 at the beginning of this set.
Yeah,
it was pretty miserable. It was bad, basically. Couldn't even touch FF6.
any other?
Quistis, which is also a nice card.
We should probably try some other cards, right? But yeah, let's go real quick.
I feel like they're heavy with the FF8 this set, so I feel like it's not necessarily something to gloss over, you know. But when she enters the field, choose up to the same number of characters as the FF8 forwards you control. Dull them. If you control 3 or more FF8 forwards, you freeze them as well. So there is, for 3 CP and a 7k body, you play her potentially off of Squall that we've just read that at the beginning of attack phase, play it. If you can, and she will count as your 3rd forward. So if you have 3 FF8 forwards on your field, you dull and freeze 3 forwards. You know, so it's pretty sweet. I like the idea.
I think it's crazy how many like it's only just occurred to me. It's like 3 or 4 powerhouse cards getting put into FF8 now. Pretty nice. Don't
get me wrong, the FF8 back in the day, I loved the Ice Lightning FF8 deck with old Renoa and old Hero Squall. I can't remember what the set was from. I think it must be like 12. I think it must be 12. Where it was a 2 CP Renoa, and if you played Squall, you triggered 3 abilities. Which was like dull and freeze something, dull this and
you liked FF8.
It was great. It was great, and I feel like that could be possibly, you could still throw a Renoa in here. There's a new Renoa coming out, but we haven't seen that yet. Anyway,
how do you feel about the full art, Sam? Because I know you like Quistis. She's like.
That was me. That was me going. If anyone's got full art,
it's actually really nice. It is really nice art, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
And she's like one of those should have been her characters with FF8, isn't it? Where she seems to have a lot more personality than Renoa, but apparently Renoa is the main girl.
I mean, she's got a dog, I guess. No, it's because I know that Quistis is like one of Sam's favourite characters because I gave him a little Coca-Cola miniature from Winter Cup.
Yeah, I like FF8 in general. Yeah, so I was a grumpy teenager. Squall is a grumpy idiot.
Quistis was my first crush, I think.
Nice.
I'm seeing we've had you think I'm getting a lot of Final Fantasy VIII. We're getting a lot of Type 0 and Brave Exvius as well, because Machina is quite interesting as a card generally. Like, one, because he gets more expensive for every forward you control, but then his thing of dull, put Machina in the break zone, choose a forward, deal it 7k. He's searchable because he's a Class 0 cadet.
Yeah, exactly. So as Machina reads, just so if anyone's listening into this, it's a 1 CP fire backup Class 0 cadet job. The cast required to cast Machina is increased by 1 for each forward you control. And then his ability is pay 1 colourless, dull, and put Machina into the break zone, choose 1 forward and deal it 7k. So
it's like a different... I'd say it's a different target to Mutsuki, because normally you go the 4-drop cadet, search another cadet.
Miyu.
Yeah, you normally go Miyu, search Mutsuki, so is this an alternate target? Is it viable? Early game it's viable, but then...
What job is he?
He's a Class 0 cadet. So he's...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he's...
No, the Mutsuki one only targets Agito cadets.
Oh, it's Agito, yeah.
Oh, Agito cadets.
Yeah, that's correct. So this would only be off of... I think there's another cadet searcher, but I don't think it's for backups. I think it's...
He's a weird card, isn't he? Because you want to play him early when you've got no or 1 forward, maybe. But you'll name clash if you run him as 3 off to try and push him, to get 1 earlier. I think he's good for really controlling fire deck that relies on its summons and monsters and stuff to control the field for a while. Good in a monster deck, I guess.
And I guess if you get board wiped, at least you then get... No, actually, no, never mind. I was about to say a relevant thing that's silly, but... I just thought it was an interesting card to read with the increasing cost as well.
I think it's definitely designed for those more controlling fire decks, because you can use the removal and then play another one of him, have him as a 3 off.
Yeah. In terms of I think what you've pulled up the Lily set as well. I think everyone's gone, oh no, Wynn's getting this again, getting more tech to kill things. It's not needed effectively. Well, it is, and it's an EX as well. To the fact that you can just EX something for as many characters you got on field. Deal 1k for it.
I think it's balanced though.
Absolutely.
It doesn't solve Wynn's problem. It isn't reliable early game removal.
No, it's not. I mean, there's room for dancers to get good as well.
Yeah. I think we've
It's a shame because the Lilith Lightning one is one of the most powerful dancers if you're on a dancer deck, and that one is just like a name clash. I guess that's in the more Pinello Water Wind versions.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe.
But isn't what you've got on your phone now, Jono, the Nacht and Alba combo? Like, my goodness, that's spicy. I mean, Ant as well. Before I let you dive in, Ant at Locals has been saying for like the past 2 sets, I don't want to trade my full art Alba that I have just because I reckon we're going to get Warrior of Darkness support, and here we are.
He's good at calling out the potential, isn't he?
Or Ant is. Yeah. So just so everyone who's listening, Nacht is a 9-cost Earth forward of 9k power, Warrior of Darkness job, category FFL, and he reads, when Nacht enters the field, you may search up to 3 job Warriors of Darkness with different names and add them to your hand. Now, at the beginning of your attack phase, during each of your turns, similar to Squall, I suppose, you may play 1 job Warrior of Darkness of cost 5 or less from your hand onto the field, with a special effect, special ability of Final Thrust, which is pay S and Earth and Lightning, so you're kind of stuck in those 2 elements, to choose 1 forward and break it.
I mean, Paul from Cactuars will be very happy because he loves a little bit of Earth Lightning, but it's the fact that basically you play the Warrior of Darkness, so you play the Alba that they've released as well. Yeah, so Alba is the 3-cost 7,000. Sorry, it's a 3-cost 7k forward with an EX, and when she enters the field, due to an ability which will obviously be triggered potentially by Nacht, is that you choose 1 forward of cost 4 or less that the opponent controls and break it. Straightforward, really. And then when she also enters the field, choose 1 Warrior of Darkness, and they gain haste. So what's she doing with her hands? I don't know anything about Final Fantasy Legends. But... Neither do I. I think she's not necessarily picking some stuff out of a thumbnail. I feel like she's trying to do the. I feel like she's trying to do the whatever McDonald's worker thing, people do, like West Side, you know. It sounds like really interesting. It used to be like a comeback in school where people would be like, "Oh, whatever," and they go, "Whatever Minger," so they'd hold up a W. And then, but then people started going like, "What?" It was like, "Whatever McDonald's worker." Like when people used to think that was an insult.
That's a new one on me.
To earn a basic wage was an insult.
She also looks like she's playing the whole game. You know, like when you hold your fingers like that and you go, she's about to turn it upside down. Oh no, you got to put your finger. Oh, what? I thought you were going down the gay card route then. Like, really? Like Alba was about to go drop your gay card. Well, she could be. I have no idea. I don't know what that thumb's doing. So,
okay.
In terms of actually not searching out 3 card names of different card names, Warriors of Darkness. You've got Alba. You've got. I had him the other day. What's his name? Griever? No, not Griever. That's Grieve.
Something like that, yeah, right, yeah.
Glaive. And then Diana, which I don't think we've got many of, but we could see this set, which
I think the old one's playable, right?
I mean,
it's like a 3CP, get a thing back. This is recursion.
That one's good. And then you got backup, but you can search a backup Diana. It doesn't say forward. So, yeah.
But Nacht is really expensive. It is very late game, very expensive. But I really enjoy these 2. I hope we do see some like Earth Lightning resurgence, because I was looking in something Steve said in his most recent LB video was when looking at like events on FF decks and like things to follow, he generally doesn't pay attention to anything that's got less than 32 players, something along those lines, because basically about the amount of rounds those decks have to survive and how playable they are. And I've been looking at myself, and all these events are like 30 players and above. There's barely any lightning representation. Like lightning as an element seems to be really
it's been underpowered for a while.
So hopefully this looks hopeful. I think. Like
I mean, the fact that
is Alba a player in outside of the Warriors of Darkness?
She probably wouldn't.
Because it's via an ability. You don't have to have an ability.
Yeah. So not a mono buff, but
I do feel like you're getting some sort of payoff by playing Nacht, because if you go and get Alba, for example, you are playing her for free at the beginning of attack, possibly breaking someone's forward, possibly giving someone else haste. Do you know what I mean? There is the cost is high of 9 CP, but the payoff for being able to play something from hand for free at the beginning of your attack phase could hopefully negate some of that cost. You know, make it feel a bit more, playable.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about? Sorry, just to bring something up about balance going into this next set. Obviously, it's all speculation. No one can really say how the playing environment's going to be changed by new LB, new powerful cards. So many different things. Because you look at Earth, it got some really nice cards, and it got that Shantotto, which is already on the brink of meta.
Yeah.
And then we're saying LB might hold back aggro decks now.
So
Water got a buff with Tidus.
I think
Fire's getting a buff.
I think if we're making the segue into LB decks here, I think that the fact that they've brought this out at such a crucial time as well seems to work in its favour. I think I feel like having something there that is always on tap. And if anyone's not familiar with how the LB decks have been played yet, please check out Phil's amazing short video about how the rundown is. If you go over to Victor After All YouTube channel, you'll find that there, and we'll probably tag it in this as well in the comments.
I just did a L'Oreal hair flip for anyone who there's no camera, so you can't watch. But I'm very thankful.
Yeah,
it looked especially good with your hair.
Yeah,
we appreciated it.
My wonderful hair. Yes.
So if you haven't already, check that out. He explains the mechanics of it very beautifully, and I do feel that LB decks have to be watched, because obviously we're going to have such a limited card pool on this. Only eight cards allowed in the side deck in the LB deck, and you've got to make those choices to fit what could possibly be in front of you. I think it's another choice that you have to make sure that you're playing the right sort of room, I suppose. I
think as a new player, I have one good thing about LB is the one thing that happens in this game is. I'm referencing Steve's video a lot, but it's because it's come out recently, is that there is a lot of different ways the games can end in Final Fantasy, which is really nice because of the amount of builds that are viable, and just because the game can go back and forth and create really weird game states. Obviously, a lot of people are worried that this could just result in everybody playing the same cards and everything always end up as a Wall 7 steamroll. But one thing I like about this is, let's say what I described earlier, I'm against Sean, I'm playing Cat 13, and he's playing Rydia, and I'm dancing at damage 6 for the entire game. LB does allow last-minute clawbacks, although that's a two-way street, and Sean can just LB me in the face and I die. I think the LB deck is at least giving another chance for games to last longer. Depending on
additional consistency.
Yeah, so there's better chance for players to get out of those board wipe situations, but additionally there's extra chances to create them, so it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and it's nice if you get unlucky and you draw in all backups. You've got something to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I look forward to those sorts of LB cards, not just these big things that like blow up boards and shit. I'm looking forward to cards that are like a search on tap, although I don't know if that's good or not, but yeah.
This Cloud is a good one for that example. The 4-cost breaker 3 or less when he enters,
which is to point out the pre-release promo that comes in every pre-release. Nice full art foil. So we all love them.
Job
Looks
Rider.
Good.
I know. I saw that. I was like, wait, what?
I think they were like, oh shit, we can't make him a soldier because he'll be buffed by something on entry or something. I don't know, or like protected.
Yeah. You wonder with these jobs whether it's mechanical decision or something.
Job motorbike man.
I love that mini game in FF.
Just hold.
Addictive.
If you know Final Fantasy VII speedrunning, though, you literally just have to like hold left or something for the entire of that segment. And you just clear it without getting hit. Like you can just like hold something down and not even interact with the game. And you don't have that segment's and basically.
I don't know if that's entertaining or upsetting.
That whole bike segment is basically window dressing. You're sitting there going, "Oh, I'm doing so good," but yeah.
Sad face.
It's cards like this that have made me like look at like that prison meme deck I was making about like if you can put out more protective, slower backups and forwards that stop stuff from being broken, power reduced. Like your Minwoos, for example, and yet Kalmias. I think I would be interested to see if we do get a meta that develops around those sorts of things, because the fear of constantly being clouded, from limit break or whatever.
I think with Cloud, he's answering decks like that, and I think generally that we're moving away from those. Like, I feel like those prison strategies were like maybe Opus 11 they were like peak.
Okay.
You know, like your tax monster deck and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I think those
Got a lot of
decks, the more powerful cards get, the harder those decks have a time
Yeah.
of creating a fixed board state. You know?
Okay, I get this is me more thinking Yu-Gi-Oh terms for people that know like cards like skill drain. I'm basically thinking, if I play skill drain, which basically just says none of your cards have effects permanently whilst this backup is on the field.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, would that stop stuff like this happening? But it might have already happened. But,
So so I'm just going to read the card out for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. Is I say it's our previously spoiler. So it's a 4-cost limit break card with a body of 8k, and it's a limit break 2. So you have to pay the cost and then also pay 2 limit break cards from your LB deck to flip them over. And when he enters, choose one forward of cost 3 or less and break it. And with a special of limit burst, 1s 4 lightning, dull it. Choose one forward, opponent controls, break it. Cloud deals your opponent 1 point of damage. So yeah,
I think this card is maybe the most consistent LB card we've seen, as in it will add the most consistency to a deck, especially if you're playing mid-range-ish.
I love the fact that it's 3 or less, because there's so many relevant 3-cost cards.
3 or 2 or 1.
Yeah, exactly.
that card alone just also Zach as well just gets rid of Palam and Porum, both of them. Like Palam and Porum, it's still relevant obviously, but it's just it threatens them immediately.
Yeah, honestly, because they were, they came a close second at Winter Cup, right? Palam.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this Cloud now just
Shits on
just don't really care, do you? Yeah.
Shits on him.
Oh look, children. Death.
And the rider comes through as a blade.
I guess to take a break from talking about cards, like 'cause then we can look through cards whilst I'm talking and stuff. The one thing I like that again Steve mentioned, where we'll link Steve D's limit break video because it's a really really good insight into the last couple of months in the game and his thoughts and things. To be honest, quite a lot of critical thinking. The thing I like about the limit break deck compared to other games that have extra decks, if you would call them that generally, is, and it's something that Steve said, is you have to, the additional cost is having to flip those cards from your limit break deck, which means this isn't something that you can just combo for days and go nuts. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, you pay cost from your battlefield. You don't pay cost from your extra deck. So if I want to play something, I've still got another 14 cards left, 10 cards left in my extra deck.
Yeah.
Or 9 cards, sorry. And then the same with Magic, to my understanding, with Companions, because Companions basically broke Magic, and then they had to basically errata every single card in the game, but like every single card that Companions broke, and then they made Companions bad because it almost broke Magic. And Companions were the same; they were like in a separate deck, and you didn't have to pay anything but your land for them.
Yes.
So it's nice that what differentiates this is that we have to use our extra resource. We have to sacrifice our limit break deck to do limit break.
I'm glad it's got that ceiling of like the maximum amount of limit break cards you can play in a game will be what, 4?
Yeah.
If they're all limit break 1.
Exactly.
I think it's important that there's this ceiling, and I think Kageyama and the team have done a relatively good job of balancing this game in general.
I believe so.
So I think a lot of people losing their minds, thinking the game's broken now, should take a step back and see what happens. And if the bans are needed to be done, they'll be done eventually.
As I said when this all started, and people were kind of going going ranting and raving, I'd say, just to use a better term, going about how this is going to ruin the game. You haven't even tried it yet. You're reading it on paper. You're not actually getting cards in hand and seeing how well these cards actually play. There's so many different options, and as I think Phil's been saying this entire time, the Zach LB, it's a limit break 1, but yet it deals 3k. I mean, it just sounds poor. In all honesty, it sounds poor. But if you've got quick removal, if you've got dealing 7k and then deal a 3k on top of, which your opponent doesn't see because it's there in your hand, it's an extra thing. I just think people just need to play it out first and just have fun with it and see how far that goes, because I really don't think it's actually that bad.
I do wonder with some people as well if these were normal cards that were printed, so Zach would be printed with 1 CP cost instead of 3.
Of course.
I wonder if they'd be like, "Oh, this is decent."
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you actually see the cards on paper, you know that they have to have been dumbed down in terms of play, so that we can obviously make sure that the cards are actually I don't know. They've got to be an extra deck worthy, obviously, because if you've made the cards too strong, what's the point? Then they are breaking the game in my eyes. You've got to give them sort of fair cost, fair ability. I mean, Victora, I would have said initially I was going, that looks a bit shit, to be fair, but she's 4 cost that actually, technically 6 cost because you're flipping 2 from your limit break. She's limit break 2, and if your opponent has no cards,
I wouldn't count those as CP.
I don't think. Yeah, you can't count stuff from your.
Oh no, yeah, okay,
So
but yes,
more reader as a 2 cost.
Claw back what I've said.
But you have to spend that additional resource.
It's an additional resource that you have to then take into account for any other LBs that you have in your side deck. But she basically, if your opponent has no hand, then she gains 3k. Likelihood of that happening very slim, unless you are playing a very heavy discard.
I don't know. Play the new 7-drop Kurosame and then Victoria from LB. It's a guaranteed empty hand.
True. Then you are paying quite a lot for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how long is she going to be 7k for? How long is she going to be at 10k for? And then when she enters. If your opponent has 2 cards or less in hand, deal it 7k. Now that bit I feel is decent, because when do you feel like you're gonna get your opponent's hand down to 2, knowing that you've got this in your side deck, flipping this over to?
Oh yeah. Also, they go Rug Rufus aggro.
Yeah.
You go, all right. You may have made me discard, but I'm gonna get this card out of my LB deck.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kill your Rufus.
Yeah.
Now you're only doing damage. Now my clock now the pressure's pretty much off.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely, as we were saying, that the LB deck just helps, fills all those gaps that we were missing from previous.
I do think undoubtedly we are going to see a game speed increase. Like, we're going to see games overall. I think they might either end faster or feel faster to play. Like at the moment, with natural curve and ramp and things like that, the game feels like you've got a nice turn or 2 to get going. I feel like this might, to use the term again, increase the threat density a little bit. Like, I am going to feel a little bit more on edge earlier. Normally, maybe turn 3, I'm starting to think, shit, this game's getting out of hand, or I need to do something more game defining. I feel like that I've got to do something game defining feeling needs to happen earlier. Will happen earlier.
I think the tempo will change. I like that all decks are getting an LB deck, because what you would have in the past, if the game speed increases, is that feeling of aggro decks, you had to be on a certain deck or you just weren't playing. You had to have a certain pace. Whereas if we've all got LB decks, then the control decks get extra resources to get them to their end game.
We haven't seen an Earth LB yet, have we?
Yeah, we have as Shantato.
Oh, of course, yeah, that was the newest one, recently. Sorry, I was looking through thinking, but yeah.
I feel like everyone is going to have the same LB cards in the deck. You are going to fill that LB deck. It's limited to still 3 ofs, as all cards in this game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so your LB deck,
yes.
You still can only play 3 of that same card in the LB deck. But what's that? 3 of one, 3 of another, and then 2 of another to fill your LB deck. But you are going to obviously want specific things to happen within that.
Do we know how many LB cards per element we're getting then? Do you think it's going to be 3 or 4?
I think it's 2 off, because we've got 2 fires so far.
So if you're on mono, you just have to put 2 off colours that you just pay.
I'll be interested.
Or you do this splashing elements thing, put in experts of other elements so that you can play a different LB card.
Potentially.
Well, we'll have to see after the whole set comes out, because a valid point I've seen made is at the moment you have the way a set goes out is up to what card 100 and 110, 120-ish. It goes up to your light and dark cards, and then after that it's your dual element cards. So generally we have on average about 120 to 130 cards in a set, but now we've got to fit LB cards in as well as. So what slot will the LB cards take? Will they just be added on the end so sets are bigger, or will they take the slot within their elements? Because at the moment, Shantato is 118, and this is now a good theory for me.
Well, there's no multi-elements, right?
There's no multi-elements.
Oh, we know that already, do we?
Yes, we
actually, because 118 is a multi-element colour
correct,
later on. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just checking the others to put this back this up. Yeah, and then we've got 120, 122. Fine, yes, these are the multi-element sort of slots. Fair enough.
It feels like, and they have done this in the past where they've gone 3 sets with multi-elements, 3 sets off, 3 sets multi-elements, 3 sets off. And now we're on 3 sets possibly of LB. Maybe we might see 3 sets of LB, then it just dies off for a bit, and then it comes back and another 3 sets.
We've not seen any crystal cards for Opus 22 yet.
No.
Well, crystal cards. As using crystals.
Using crystals.
Because if you go to that,
there you go. There's one. Yeah.
Yeah, we've still got them popping up.
That's good.
Luartha's good. One drop control for fire, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems alright though.
So yeah, I think
it's really anyone's guess about the game environment. I wonder if anyone's like started proxying LB decks and like testing.
I hope so, because
Octagon supports OCG. Octagon's going to go with that. It already supports LB. They've already added it in. So nice. People are already, as far as I know, I haven't been on, but FFTCG doesn't, and I don't know about Untap because I guess it works on the same engine. But yeah, but via Octagon definitely.
Yeah,
cool.
So yeah,
I think there's as I say, you need to play it to understand it, and if you play it and you jive with it, then carry on because I think it adds some depth and some new challenges to the game. Whereas if you really, if you dislike it before you even tried it, then why don't say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can understand some people getting so into the game that when some change like this comes up, it feels like someone's messing with your
well, exactly.
whole
we felt
conception,
We did feel the same about warps. We felt the same about crystals. Anything that brings in a new mechanic, you kind of go, oh, I've got to change how I feel about these decks and these cards and how I play. Am I going to have to change my whole game state to be able to fit around in a mechanic?
Yeah. But the LB decks are inherently more ubiquitous than crystals or warp, right? They're always going to be in every single game.
I'm assuming they're a choice.
Presumably.
I'm assuming they're a choice, or are they not a choice? Can you go into a tournament without an LB deck?
If I take precedent, yes, of other games and what we've seen so far, it's just another deck you can have.
So you don't have to.
But it's free power.
Of course.
You'd be dumb not to.
You'd be dumb not to, but if you really don't like it, then you don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's really...
Well, yeah, I don't really agree with that argument because if you're always against it, you're not. That's not like saying you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I think that's a silly point of view.
I think it's because in for example in Yu-Gi-Oh there are main deck cards that just don't synergize with LB decks. Therefore, you just don't play an extra deck with those cards, and you can win the game perfectly fine. Or there are decks that lock down the LB deck. Therefore, you don't play one on your own. But at the moment, we don't have any reason not to play LB
There's
cards.
no synergy for between LB decks and main decks, so
exactly.
they are just generic cards that can just
or no lack of synergy, because if there was for some weird reason that an LB deck didn't synergize with your main deck, then sure you wouldn't play it because it's some weird spice you play that turns off LB cards. But I don't think we'll get that yet. We might get anti-LB stuff in a few sets, or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll see as well what they do with the format. They may have something interesting with the rules or the format about LB.
Yeah, we'll see that as we go. But we've got one more fun thing before we finish, because I think we've done quite a lot of intense talk, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we had at the end of the last podcast, we were saying that if when you listen, you're like, hey, I want to ask a question or say a thing or tell Sam and Jono what I had for dinner, you can say it in the comments. We might talk about it in the next podcast. And we had a comment last time from Erebos player, who I think is Lyndon. So thanks for the comment, Lyndon. Basically saying this is more like an ask the person something fun. So what archetype or category, etc. So you could pick color or whatever. What needs just one more legend or more in a certain to make it more to make it better, basically, to make it catapult back into tier 1 again. Think of any sort of category, color, job,
just deck archetype,
anything that makes a Final Fantasy card or deck. What would make that one thing better? So whether it's Job Dragoon or
my answer's really boring, so you should go first.
my immediate one, just because I'm a fanboy and it's just gonna be the fanboy answer, is Black Mages. I want better cards for Black Mages because I need to play all of them.
They need to be able to break
Final Fantasy 9 in general, but it needs more than one card to fix it.
Yeah, they need to be able to break big things, those guys.
Final Fantasy 9 unfortunately needs a full on like liposuction, face transformation. Like, it's not just that one.
FF9 leaves a lot more than one card.
I mean, the only card that actually stands out at all is ever Zidane.
So yeah, it's all right in title because you just run a Zidane deck, right?
That's all you need, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I've not thought of that.
Okay, I better go before you. Then.
Yeah.
Go on.
Mine's a really boring answer. Fire Wind.
I'm playing it. I want it.
It is that close. It feels like, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Because fire is like a deck that in its tempo is trying to slow down and stop play, and wind is constantly accelerating itself, and so it needs that one thing to sort of bring it together. I am being very general. I don't. Play much, so.
Well, I think it's that case of it's got good pressure parts, like the two colours are down, amazing for pressure, but it's just a little bit too fair in general, you know.
Yeah. I think on my part, I think the archetype that I've had such great time playing was Lightning Wind Lightning. It's one of those sort of
needs more
archetypes.
than one legend, I reckon.
I think so. Again for the Black Waltzers and Black Mages thing, the archetype that it's just you're mixing a lot of cards that are. That need a bit of extra support, or they either go mono. Do you know what I mean? They either need that extra support to do both things, or they just go mono. You know what I mean? You got to ditch one of the elements to actually make it fairly decent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved the archetype, and I've always loved the fact that back in the day I was playing Cypher with Fujin and Raijin backups that search it, give it haste, give it first strike, you know, all those sorts of things. I loved all that ideas, all those synergies, but it feels flat, and I'd love to see like Wind Lightning get a bit more of a buff.
I really like the ping version back in what was that, Opus 9 or something.
Yeah, no, it was great.
And I was thinking about our draft we did recently, Opus 5. I was like, back then I would have liked to play a bit of Lightning Wind,
yes,
you know, because you got Illua and all kinds of fun cards back in the day.
I mean, the multicolor cloud was nice.
That was a buff.
The Wind Lightning cloud was great. It did a thing, but that was it. Do you know what I mean?
19, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just did a thing, and then that was it. You didn't really see much change to the actual archetype itself. So I don't know. There's thoughts.
I saw some Australian player trying to play it, Wind Lightning.
Yeah.
Back in Opus 19, I think. But yeah, he couldn't push through the Australian scene with that. You know, couldn't get into worlds with that. So. Yeah, I think it does need a buff. I think that's a good shout.
I think it's something that's sadly missing something.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, thank you very much, Lyndon, for that, and hopefully we can get some more questions coming in so that we are able to get some new topics of conversation. So yeah, thank you very much.
Always good to have a nice conversation.
Yeah.
Don't tell us what you had for dinner though, because that's not really helpful. unless it was Final Fantasy cards.
I mean, I did just ask Steve D on one of his videos what his like tea meta is. So
oh man,
you know, like
that is cutting edge FF news. Like, Steve basically declared war by saying that Scottish tea is the best tea. But to be fair, I haven't specifically tasted a Scottish brew or what I know to be.
I do have a good time when I go to Scotland. Maybe I'm not very patriotic.
Well, maybe when we next see Steve, we should
have a tea war.
We'll have a tea exchange. Steve, if you're listening and you listen this far, let's have a tea off. Yo.
Bring it down to the next Commons Cup, and we'll have a great time sipping tea and playing Commons. So
yeah, well, that sounds delightful. You've seduced me with that sentence.
A cup of tea and Commons.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Dreamy.
That's what the event should be called.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for hanging about as long as you have. I hope that obviously, as usual, our ramblings have soothed your ears, and given you some food for thought for LBs coming forward in the next set with all these beautiful spoilers. Keep watching out for all the community spoilers. Shout out to everyone who's obviously been given one and obviously supporting the community with those spoilers. Shout out to Alec, who's obviously given out all these spoilers to everyone as well. So hopefully we'll see some fresh stuff, and hopefully LB doesn't screw everything up. Hopefully see you guys all soon. We'll do one next month.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Take care.